Meeting of the Richland County Board to order for the month of June 2024. Let the recording get started here. And I will ask the acting clerk to call the roll, please.
Caro.
Here.
Miller. Here. Brewer.
Here.
Kramer.
Here.
McKee.
Here.
Renish.
Here.
Hendricks.
Here.
Manning.
Here.
Gill.
Here.
Glassburner.
Here.
Harwick.
Here.
Woodhouse.
Here.
Turk.
Here.
Cosgrove.
Here.
Frank.
Here.
Severson.
Present.
Williamson. Cooey.
Here.
Fleming.
Here.
Brookins.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
You have 24 forms, sir.
Very good. Is there anyone present for doing invocation tonight? I believe so. I would ask the clerk then to have us stand and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are we in compliance with the open meetings law?
So posted.
Very good. Item 6, we have before us the agenda of 28 points. We will be skipping a couple of the reports for folks that weren't able to be with us tonight. But do we have a motion to...
So moved.
A motion from Renish, second from Manning to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We also should have minutes from the May 28th meeting that have been circulated. Anybody had a chance to look at those? Anybody have questions, corrections, or comments on those minutes? Hearing none, the chair declares them to be approved. Item 8 on our agenda is public comment. Do we have any member of the public that would wish to address the board tonight? Yes. Please stand up and give your name and tell us where you live.
My name is Maureen Gray. I go by Mo. I live up at Golf Course.
Okay, thank you.
Sumner County resident. Was born in the meeting and I thought it was great. I'm a retired Pine Valley Business Office employee. I'm the treasurer for the Pine Valley Foundation. I volunteer at the front desk at Pine Valley Weekly, and my mother-in-law is the president of Pine Valley. I have a working out of Pine Valley. I read the Pine Valley investigation report that you received at your last meeting and felt it to be very one-sided and believe the board is entitled to receive a different view than was presented. I was an employee when Tom Rislow started as the administrator. It was the impetus for many changes that were implemented fairly soon after he started, and I'm sure there was resistance. I think it's safe to say that most people are resistant to change and unnecessary and the uncertainty that it causes. With careful implementation and transparency as to why the changes are necessary, the processes are fairly painless. I agree when Attorney Windle says that change for the sake of change can be misguided. I also believe the theory that you don't need to fix something that isn't broken. The report talks about transparency and communication between the county and Pine Valley being needed. Were the changes necessary, were the changes being implemented explained to the employees or just told this is the way it's going to be? Were all the changes necessary or more of a failure to understand how things work at a 24/7 nursing facility? Nursing homes are subject to state and federal on-site oversight, which has shown Pine Valley to be doing the job that they are charged with. Attorney Windle also said that the employees were reluctant to cooperate with the investigation. I was volunteering on one of the days that there were one of the employee meetings. I was not in the meeting, but saw the Board of County Administrators facing the PV employees. I hope you can see how this would be intimidating to the employees. I'm not quite sure why such a show of force was necessary. I would also tend to believe that much of the info was gathered from employees who were not happy with their jobs. I can think of several very negative people that would have been happy to share their complaints and give opinions as to how things need to work, whether they had any knowledge of how such things should work. Communication failure was also brought up, which had points about staffing reporting that were simply untrue. I cannot speak to the details of that, but there are others who can. The report also said that employees didn't feel the Pine Valley administration heard their concerns. I find it interesting that the county administration didn't seem to hear Pine Valley employees' concerns regarding what was happening in Pine Valley. I saw the morale of the employees drop to levels lower than what happened during COVID, and that was an extremely stressful time. In conclusion, this investigative report should be taken for what it is, a partial view of what's happening in Pine Valley. Perhaps the report is based on only what the employees were willing to share with Attorney Windle, and he was not able to see the entire picture. I certainly hope that this bias and condensation shown to the management team at Pine Valley was based on a lack of information. If the board believes that a report is needed regarding Pine Valley, I suggest that a third party that is less intimidating should conduct the report. There would certainly be a cost to having this done, but it would be money well spent to help resolve the current issues surrounding the facility.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I was just going to say thank you. Yep, thank you, and I appreciate all the
Thank you
work
for
you guys
sharing. We appreciate you speaking.
Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board? Yes,
I would like to introduce.
yes, and your name is?
My name is Angie Alexander, and I have was an employee for Richland County for 42 years. I served as a director of nursing at Pine Valley Community Village. And to say that it was a labor of love, I can't even tell you how much Pine Valley and the team that I worked with and the residents that I cared for meant to me. I will say that my concerns with the new administrator began very quickly after she started, and I did take those concerns as I felt I needed to my current administrator, Mr. Rizzo, and he gave me guidance, as he often does, telling me to continue to work hard, to make sure that it works, that the fact that I can make it work with her will help others, and I did truly try to do that. As Tom was leaving, I continued to share some concerns that I had and looked for some guidance. He assured me that I should take concerns if they continue to Candace, and I did do that. I will tell you that Candace was very receptive of hearing from me and always made time for me when I asked to meet with her, so thank you for that, Candace. I will tell you that to say that there was an intimidation factor in a toxic work environment is probably, it's probably an understatement. I want to get through this quickly so that I can say the important pieces. So I'll try to dovetail on what Mo said today, and thank you for that, Mo. I think that those of us that brought concerns to Candace were retaliated against. It happened in the form of bullying, keeping information from you that you needed to do your job, changes in your job without you being informed, and on and on. I witnessed that not only for myself, but I witnessed it in several of my staff members. I will tell you that I did not share concerns that I was having with my administrator, with my staff for the most part, other than those that were witnessing it themselves at department head meetings. I felt like they have enough to do. They have an important job to do. They don't need to hear me whining and complaining or separating or dividing and conquering. That wasn't my goal. So I think that many of them didn't know what was happening, and certainly didn't seek Mr. Windle's his offer to listen to our concerns. They didn't have concerns. I want to speak shortly to the, I'm nervous too, by the way. I want to speak to the investigation as well. I don't feel that the misinformation is in there was an intentional thing at all. I felt like Mr. Windle spent a lot of time with those of us that came to him and did listen to us. I do feel that there were some, I used a term last night that was incorrect when I spoke, and I said that I felt there should be conditional support to those of us that have been doing our job for a long time, and that's not correct. All of us should be subject to having to toe the line. If there's something going on, we can be responsible for it. When there's a problem, there's always two sides to every story. So what I meant is I felt like somebody like myself who's worked for the county for 42 years and has been a good employee, has been loyal to Pine Valley and has served in her role very well, I believe. There should have been more credibility given to what I was saying.
I'm sorry, your time has run out. Sorry to interrupt you, but thank you for sharing.
May I just say one more thing, and then I promise I'll sit down. I just want to say that the communication portion of that report needs to be looked at, because It is, there is misinformation in there, probably unintentional, but it is damaging to the reputation of Pine Valley and Pine Valley's clinical team, and I think it needs to be cleaned up. So thank you very much for your time.
For sharing. Any other like that wish to address the board? Anyone else for public comment? Thank you for those who shared. We'll move on. Item number 9, pen presentation from Representative Tony Kurtz. Representative Kurtz is here with us tonight.
Well, I appreciate allowing me to do this. Some of you know me. I'm State Representative Tony Kurtz. I'm currently proud to serve the 50th Assembly District, which is all of Richland Center and some of the townships to the north here. And this is kind of bittersweet. Why I'm here tonight is, obviously, you know, the governor did a partial veto, but signed Act 250, which provided grant funding to those that, unfortunately, that have a 2-year campuses closed. So why I say that's bittersweet, because I know you all would rather have the campus. I understand that, but I think you understand that that's not going to happen. And what I wanted to provide is just a pen from the governors when he signed that, because you guys were helpful. Marty, Candace, David, I know you were still, but you were. And without the struggles you went through, I don't think that would have got across the finish line. Because trust me, the state assembly, the state senate, many did not want to do this at all. They felt it was a county's problem, the county has to deal with it. And so it took a heavy lift to actually get it across the finish line. And so I just want to say, like I said, I know it's bittersweet. I know there's a lot of mixed emotions about it, but I just want to say I appreciate the help you provided me and some of the guidance. I know it wasn't always pretty at times, but like I said, I'm just very appreciative that you guys helped with the process. So, Marty, I want to say thank you very much for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Kurt,
Thank you.
and Candace, thank you very much. Very good job. Like I said, I'm very appreciative, so thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here.
Did you bring that big cardboard check too?
Okay, item 10, we have several reports. We'll be skipping 10B, as Attorney Phillips is not able to be with us tonight, and 10C we'll also be skipping. Our ambulance and emergency government director had some other commitments needed to attend to tonight, so we will start with 10A, report from the Southwest Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. Overview of their annual report. I'll let Troy introduce himself here for those.
I got a couple images to share with you to share a bit about our work that's being brought up. Just an overview for those new to the board. I'm Troy Maggie, I'm the Executive Director of the Southwestern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. We serve 5 counties here in southwestern Wisconsin: Grant, Greene, Iowa, Lafayette, and Richland. We've been doing so since around 1970. So we're moving into our 54th year. So I'll kind of walk through these. It looks like you have them in front of you. But there's a couple of items I'll speak to and see what they're doing. Okay. How about that? So, you know, we do get a little bit of revenue from the counties we serve. In Richland County, it's a little over $1 per capita that comes from you. And by our calculation, based on the work we do and how we take your funding and put it towards outside funding to enhance our capacity, we're returning about $1.79 for every dollar coming from the county. Our annual budget is just over $1.2 million. You can see there, only about 13% of that comes from our 5 counties. The balance is from fee-for-service contracts and grants. So we're pretty aggressive in leveraging the continued support. But something that's unique about us, even though we do services that a lot of private firms do, is we're grounded here in the geography of Southwest Wisconsin, and from a governance standpoint as well. So we have 3 commissioners from each of our counties. The county board chair by state statute in our bylaws is always on our board. So currently David Turk, newly elected. Melissa Luck is on our board. Her term ends in September. And we have an opening. So Ray Schmitz, who's from town here, served us really well. Was a great guy in a lot of our work and still is involved locally with some of our work. He stepped down for personal reasons. So we're looking to have a successor for Ray. So if you're interested, we can chat. Tonight I'm going to highlight just a few of our projects, and I've got some of my staff in the back just to give you a highlight of what we do. Kind of the three big areas in which we could bucket our work, if you will, is capacity building. And most every community and county and city and village is struggling for capacity to do that work. So we think critically about how to build capacity. We do economic development. We do it different than the county and the city. We have a unique role in that, and of course we're planning for it. You did get in your packet about a 3 to 5 page document that kind of really narrates in great detail, hopefully in more detail, some of the work we do. So I won't go into all that. I'll highlight a couple of projects. We're currently working on a series of housing studies, funded in part by Richland County and the 5 counties we serve, as well as Prosperity Southwest. We did a series of studies in 2019. Of course, the housing market's a lot different. You can see here really the differences in scope lie in that we're not doing heavy interviews with bankers and businesses. We did some interviews and that world's not changed a whole lot. What we're doing is going deeper into zoning ordinances to see if there's sort of regulatory barriers that can relieve some of the housing pressure. We're doing a lot of GIS mapping to help identify buildable parcels and outlining some case studies that Richland County, Richland Center could bring in to help the housing solutions. We do have 6 Richland County studies. So these 5 cities and villages, Boaz, Kaz, Lone Rock, Center, and Viola, each have their own study, and we have a county level study. So Alyssa Schaefer from our office is the lead on this. We've given those to Candace. We're in touch with her about how to roll these out and see what we can do about meeting with cities and villages to start implementing. A couple of high points. Some of this you all know. This is just a snapshot. That green bar shows the change over time in housing prices, and the blue bar shows the change over time in incomes. Incomes are going up, which is wonderful. They're not in any way keeping up with inflationary for housing. Another thing, because we have aging communities that folks don't talk about that often, is equity. It's a great thing. If you own a home, you never want to leave it. So we have an aging community. We have a lot of folks who refied during the pandemic. We have as much owner's equity now across the United States as we did back in 1960. Think about the age of our population. Think about folks who are living in their house for a 30-year mortgage and it's paid off, right? When you combine that with this red bar, if you see that red spike, that's the number of mortgage originations due to refinances. My little house in Platteville was at 6.5%, now I'm at 2.5%. People aren't moving. There's just no churn. You're not going to sell a 2.5% interest home and get a 6% home, right? So there's just no mobility. And so obviously at the end of the day, we need new housing. So how are we helping communities do that? We're a planning firm, but if we just put plans in the hands of folks who lack capacity, they're just going to sit on shelves. So we're working with communities in 3 ways, kind of a 3-step process to get some housing coming. Asset mapping, planning, investing in land, and then looking at actual development you want. How do we change the nature of the housing that comes in? A couple of high points. Asset mapping and planning, we're identifying all the buildable lots. We do this through a pretty sophisticated GIS analysis that analyzes everything from topography to floodplains to endangered species. Where could a house go? That's the first thing. We live in a driftless, there's a lot of topography issues. So the first thing we do is scan the physical place of where a house could go. The second thing we're doing is helping identify available funding. It sounds simple, right? Where's the grant? But we really have developed 3 ways to look at it. And I say we, Misty Molzoff is our assistant director. She comes from a lot of municipal finance background and a bit of a mentor of mine. So when I say we, I mean Misty and I follow. 3 questions. Do they have tax increment financing available? It's a very powerful tool. Misty is now leading a new creation of TIF districts in Lone Rock and Richland Center, heavily geared towards new home construction. The other questions, the 2 questions are day-to-day governance issues. Do they have any available borrowing capacity? We've got a lot of communities that have 0 debt on the books, which feels good, but debt can be a powerful tool if we help them make the right decisions, right? The other one is what's our undesignated fund balance. More or less, how much money you have in the bank you can spend unrestricted. There is a reason, and I'll get shot in some communities when I say this, there's a reason that the net new construction laws exist. usually not at the county level. But we're working with a village that has 250% of its annual budget sitting in reserves in the bank, earning 1% bank interest. So there are folks who have cash. How do we put that to use if in fact they have it? We know that many do not, and there are folks who are really using the funding well. But they're often not looking at cash in the bank. So what are the financial tools they have, and how can we put that to use in housing? The next one's investing in land. This is really simple. Cities and villages need to take the lead. The housing market's not working for us. So we've got communities that are having success for housing or buying the land and then working with the developer to lower the cost. And then lastly, some zoning recommendations. There's a lot here. I won't spend too much time on it. The big picture is how do we have a little more density to lower the cost of housing, remove some of the some of the zoning oversight barriers, by not watering down zoning, so we can get the housing pool in as quick as possible. We can spend hours on that, but we won't. So that's a big project we're wrapping up and we're help moving forward. As you all know, we have a county level comprehensive plan coming up. This is something that Supervisor Glassbrenner was a leader on, as well as Sean Murphy Lopez some years last year. And then we're getting back to it now due to some turnover at probably both our organizations. The comprehensive planning statutes talk about looking at 9 elements. We've worked with your county folks, and heavily we're going to look at a scope of work that, number one, doesn't repeat what you have. You've got your farmland preservation, you've got your hazard mitigation plans. How do we pull the best practices in there so we're not doing what we've done? We've also done some long-range planning in Boaz and Lone Rock and Richland Center, so we can pull the practices from there to think about how those impact the county. We're going to do a data mapping update. I think we have a committee meeting coming up to talk about that. The bulk of what we've discussed in terms of spending a lot of our time on is this intergovernmental coordination. We're all strapped for cash, capacity, physical facilities. How do we share resources among city, village, town, and county? So we're going to schedule, Dan Hopkins, our lead on the project, we're going to schedule 2 or 3 meetings with the Towns Association. One will probably be informational, but then we want to get into the weeds to really help them think about or help us educate us on their needs, how the county can partner in some way, whether there's greater opportunity for joint procurement, sharing of staff, whatever that thing would be. Non-Richland Center villages, separated from Richland Center just due to the size and nature of it all. So we want to pull together Lone Rock, Boaz, Viola, and see what they need. And then I know Administrator Pesh has been meeting with Richland Center Administrator pretty frequently. So we want to make sure we capture what they're doing and the thoughts they have about how city and county can work closer together. The other things we're going to talk about, I know there's been some conversation about economic development. I think the county still has some budgeted economic, do you still budget for some economic, a little couple pennies in the sofa? Yeah, so there's still, the goal for economic development of the county is to figure out how you can spend your money in a way other than the city, in ways that there's not grant funding for. What's your unique role? So we're going to spend some time there. And the last thing we're going to bring in is what Ellen Tyler, my third colleague in the back, have been working on around the county is long-range kind of resiliency planning. Started in partnership with Darren Gudgeon and Melissa Luck, and Steve Carroll has been heavily engaged with others. We're going deeper into the stuff your hazard mitigation plan looks at. Where and how are you and your people vulnerable? That is infrastructure and the stuff we think about, but it's also with energy bills going up, peak heat levels in the summer going up, the age of our house and the age of our population. What does all that confluence and messiness mean? So what are the vulnerabilities in people and infrastructure and so on? Doing some risk assessment and asset mapping. And then Ellen has built a team of folks leading some coalitions to look at a variety of projects already. And this is the bulk of it. We're really prepared. My personal interest is some of the financial impacts, particularly around climate change. As some of you may know, municipal bonds, when you go out to get your bonds rated by Moody's or Standard & Poor's, they're asking about your climate vulnerability, right? Because if you sell debt and it gets wiped out, they want to make sure you can service your debt, right? So these are things, we hear all the talking points about climate change. The financial aspects are much less in the news. But there are people with power over us who are taking action in the financial sector. So this is the bulk of it, right? This is a less resilient world. We're doing business as usual. We all do our own thing. We're not collaborating. And then there's an accident. There's a tornado. There's a flood. There's a pandemic. And we don't quite recover. How do we think about shared partnership, some level of insulation from those shocks that come so we can bounce back a little stronger? So that's kind of the core of this work, which is pretty long and messy, but It's pretty informative, and Richland County's been a leader in our region. Under, again, Darren Gudgeon lived this world for so many years with the flooding and flooding and flooding that happened in the region. So he's been a guide to us as well. So that's kind of the bulk. The last thing I wanted to share real quick, the last thing I wanted to share is just a leave behind, and you'll be getting more of a formal annual report from us later this year, but in Platteville, at the end of May, Kate Cozio, who some of you might remember from her economic development work here, spearheaded an entrepreneurship conference. The goal was to get about 100 people from around the state to come and think through economic development. Kate was able to get about 200 to come from all over the state, public, private, and so on. And to do so, she created this guide, this Driftless Getaways Guide. So we now have something of a marketing aspect for the Driftless region, which is gorgeous. So I brought some of these for all of you, including a Driftless roadways map. So every attendee now has a series of road trips they can take that looks at every little fun asset in the region. So if you don't mind, Steve, maybe send some of those around while I wrap up. And these are electronically available as well. But again, I wanted to highlight Kate's work. It's really sharp to leave behind. It's something we're going to hopefully replicate. So I'll wrap up kind of where I started. We're always pushing to return your investment back to you, plus some. As I said, our current calculation is about $1.79 for every dollar you give us. And as I mentioned, we do get county funding. This graph looks at the percentage of our overall budget made up of our county funding. You can see that it usually ran around the 20% mark. We've been pretty aggressive at securing outside funding so that despite a small bump from you all, if you're generous to give it to us, 1 to 2% is typically what we ask. The total portion of our budget from the county funding has actually dropped from about 20% to 14 to 13%. So again, we'll keep looking to bring some resources and revenue back. So again, there is in your packet probably a 5 to 7 page document that really goes into more detail about our work. And we've got a long agenda ahead of us. I want to spend some time. I'm happy to take questions if there are.
So the economic development side, how do you tie in with tourism? Are you, I guess my question ends up with that. It was on a project in northern Wisconsin, picked up this wonderful magazine that said lodging in Wisconsin, and Richland County isn't mentioned. How do those pieces meld together?
Yeah, so being a regional person, the first thing we want to make sure we don't do is duplicate what you're doing. So Kate would work with Marty Richards and trying to find what are the highlights here and how can we get these materials. And also whenever he has materials, we can share them. There's a lot of statewide tourism publications, and I think it's just hard to get a hold of them all. That's not the role we've taken, to get all the stuff from Marty and all of Marty's colleagues around the state to blanket them.
So it's not a central pool. These are individual magazines that go out.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So, yeah, correct. And that's one of the things I'm very cautious about, is I want our work to be unique and distinct and impactful. We can't chase everything. So in that case, to be very specific with you, if Marty needed some support, or if we heard of something that would benefit Richland County from getting Marty materials into their hands, we would facilitate that. He probably doesn't need our help. He's very, very good at what he does. But to use him as an example, right, if there's anything we can provide. Traditionally, the Department of Tourism, a guy named Drew Nussbaum is phenomenal at this work. Department of Tourism traditionally, I think, is cited that central aggregate that I think is supposed to push that stuff around. Yeah.
Okay. Good enough. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Troy?
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. As I said, we're skipping B and C on the report list. That brings us down to D, a review of the Pine Valley Community Village 2023 audit.
Good evening, folks. Does anybody need a hard copy of the presentation? My name is Larry Herbs. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the new finance director of Richland County. So nice to meet you. We're going to go over Pine Valley's audit. They got their audit back from the 12/31. I think you guys 12/31/23 year end. We haven't got ours back for the county yet, but they got theirs back already. So we're just going to do a quick review of the 12/31 audit. Kind of just touch on the high points. If you got any questions, just feel free to ask while we go through it. This first page, we're just gonna start, we're gonna walk through the financial statement. First part of the financial statement we're gonna touch on is firstly the balance sheet. Firstly, a snapshot in time as of 12/31. 23 and 22, this is a comparative balance sheet. It has the cash, this is the asset part with the cash. Obviously, the capital assets, the prepaid expenses. I've highlighted some of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit, and some of that is, firstly, if you look at the cash virtually up there is up, which is a positive of about 600,000. If you look at the current year balance in cash, in the regular cash is 3.7 million versus 3.4 million last year. The designated cash is 1.6 million versus 1.3 million last year. So the cash up at Pine Valley is up 600,000. That's a good thing. The accounts receivable, and I'm not going to go through everything, but I'm just going to touch on some of the highlighted things. If you look at the accounts receivable, that accounts receivable balance went down about 400,000. That normally would not be a good sign, but in this case, it's a good sign, because what they did is they actually got a better collection system. They got some liens that were closed in on, and got some money connected, and then it's sitting out there for a while. They went out and collected it and got it in. So that's part of that reduction in accounts receivable. That's good. They collect the money that's been out there for a while. So that was good. Nothing really unusual on the rest of the balance sheet. On the rest of the assets, I'll say, let's go to the next page. Yeah, Barb, thank you. This is the liability section of the balance sheet. This is where virtually what you owe people, the debts, the current, the payables, what you owe for vacations, what you owe for wages, liabilities of the company, right? Of Pine Valley. If you look here, the things I have highlighted is the current portion of long-term debt. They pay off about $1 million a year. If you look last year, they paid off about $1 million. Again, they're scheduled to pay off about $1 million of debt this year. So each year, Pine Valley's paying off about $1 million of debt. So that's good. If you're paid on that rate, they got about 15 years or so, and they should be paid off on all the debt, right? Okay, Mark? And if you have any questions, I know this is kind of boring stuff sometimes, but if you've got questions, please ask. I'm going to talk a little bit, here's firstly the expenses, the changes in that position, revenues, expenses, and changes in that position. A couple things that I want to just talk about is you can see that there are operating revenues there. We have a nice increase in operating revenues. Virtually, we went from 9.6 million up to 10.3 million, right? That's pretty good. That's a $700,000 increase in operating revenues. Everybody's pretty happy about that, right? But if you go down to, this is where we get caught a little bit. If you go down to the operating expenses, those are 11,300,000 versus 9 million or 10 million last year. That's up by 1.3 million. That means that our operating expenses went up by 1.3 million. Revenue went up by 6. You know, everybody knows that that is not an equation that we're going to win. So we had a little bit of a struggle last year as far as comparable to the year before. And if you could bring up just a little bit, Mark. If you look at the bottom, this is kind of where it comes, kind of meets the dirt, meets the road. It's still the transfers from the county. That's the money that the county's virtually transferred into Pine Valley. And then you can see the transfers to the county. That's the money that's coming back. And then there's the net. So last year, virtually, the county put in about 1.1 million in the county, in the Pine Valley in 2023, and in 2022, they about 976,000. Any questions?
Yeah, what was the main reason for in the nursing, what does it show, nursing services, you know, the increase almost $1 million, looks like.
I think a lot of that is they get and this is, I don't have this number right here that I can tell you exactly, but the consensus is that part of the raises and some of that came into effect, and then they get staffing up to levels that they needed to be the staff in to keep their 5-star rating.
So that contract labor is
Contracted
probably
nursing services is a
1.5
huge part of that.
times the
Yep.
normal
I mean, for
price.
an example, a CNA that's normally getting paid about $20 an hour is $55 an hour at you know, contract rate. Yeah.
But the plan going forward is to work their way out of that.
Correct.
As of yesterday, so.
Correct. Yes.
Anything else? All right, Mark. We're going to look, this is operating income per patient day. And this just kind of tells you what what they make or don't lose or what we lose per day. And this is just a good example for, you can see if you look throughout the years, we're fairly consistent. 21, 23 is fairly consistent. 22 has a nice increase, and that's because we got a Medicare adjustment in 22, about halfway through the year. And we got that Medicare adjustment, and then we didn't adjust wages or didn't adjust some of the other things until virtually 2023. So you see that Medicare adjustment flowed through, and as you can see that you got almost a $60 increase in revenue, and you only got about a $30 increase in cost. So that's why all of a sudden you drop $30 to the bottom line. Comparing operating expenses and revenues. Unfortunately, in this case, the operating revenues are in blue. That means that you can see that in 2022, we almost broke even. We're about 300,000 short of breaking even, but you can see both of them, we had nice, good movement in the operating revenues, but our expenses followed up and continued to grow higher than our operating expenses. But in 2022, we had a little boost, as you can see in the previous slide. We got that boost out of Medicare, and it came pretty close. When I say we're about 300,000 out. This virtually breaks down what their pie. When you take their pie of their revenues, virtually breaks down what their revenue stream is. 52% of it comes out of Medicaid, 24% comes out of Medicare, another 14% is private pay, assisted living, so on and so on. Just kind of gives you how the pie is all broken up as far as revenue streams. And this is how the pie is all broken up as far as expenses. Nurses services take a bulk of that with 56%. General services, depreciation. And depreciation is just virtually writing off over time the fixed assets, the building, the equipment. Ministry of Services, as you can see there, it gets lower and lower. This has kind of been I'll say a stick in the craw for these poor folks at Pine Valley. The supplemental payment is a payment virtually that the state is designed to help nursing homes that are virtually funded by the counties, county-run nursing homes, and they're kind of, this is supplemental payment that's been out there to kind of facilitate that and help those along, hence the supplemental payment. But as you can see here, in 2018, we were almost getting $900,000 of supplemental payment. Last year, we ended up with $100,000 of supplemental payment, and according to what our projections are this year, we won't end up with that. So that's virtually, we went from, since 2018, we went from 900,000 down to zero. Yes, sir.
So what caused the reduction, the change?
Well, it's a pot, it's virtually a pot that gets allocated. And how the state is allocating that pot is sometimes a mystery. And so each time they come out, every time we put in there, like this year, we predicted that we were going to get 143,000. Right, so we actually brought in experts, the guy that builds our Medicaid report, and they virtually did a little, I'll say, a little test run. They said we were about 143,000. They came back, government came back, redid their test run. We ended up paying $85,000 back, and ended up about a $58,000 net. That's the kind of thing. And these guys are experts in the field that are calculating this stuff. So, anyway.
And it's also to do with the adjustments in the Medicare and the Medicaid play into that. So because they're paying those higher rates, that somehow impacts that formula. So those payments being higher somehow then impacts what they're paying in these supplemental payments as well. So it all ties in, but they're not going to give you the exact recipe so that you can sit and figure it out yourself.
Kind of unpredictable, it sounds like.
It's very unpredictable. That's how it's designed. Talk to Trish about unpredictable. They don't tell Human Services 9 times out of 10 a lot of the ways that they're determining their funding for their programs either. It's how they keep us all guessing all the time.
So is this supplement federal money, state money, or is it federal money that goes to the state to be doled out?
State money.
It's all state money?
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we understood that it was
Yes,
state
no,
money. So we can try and figure this out. Thank you.
Everybody looks at Tony.
Or Tony, he just happens to be in the room.
Any more questions or comments on supplemental payments?
No, thank you.
And the last page just shows virtually occupancy, what I'll call occupancy percent similar to a motel, hotel occupancy percents. You can see that, again, in 2018, we had about a 94% occupancy rate. In 2023, we had about 80% occupancy rate. That's part of the sort of thing of the occupancy. And it's mainly on the skilled side. They've been on the assisted living side, they're 100% full and all private pay. So it's virtually on the skilled side. We got about 58 rooms right now on the skilled side out of an 80-room facility that we can handle skilled. Anything?
Any other questions for Larry on the audit report?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And our final item under the reports heading is the Health and Human Services 2023 annual report.
So in your packet, you have a copy of the annual report. This is something that we do on a yearly basis per requirements by the state. If anybody has any questions, I can answer them. Otherwise, 2023 was a pretty good year. We did come in under budget. We got I had times where we were close to full staff, which was very good, and I think close. I don't know if we'll ever be fully staffed, but close to full staff. So it was a good year overall.
Trish, would you highlight your budget numbers, please? Because I think it's pretty darn outstanding, the level of funding that runs through your department and the very small amount of tax levy that actually comes out of the budget.
Yeah, so if you go to page 10 of the document, so in 2023, we budgeted 8.7 million, and we actually spent 7.2 million. But on the next page, if you look at our revenues were actually 7.5 million. So that led a surplus of 326,000. We also came in under in our placement budget, so we had budgeted, I believe it was 1.4, and we had about 200,000 left over. So it was a very good year. And the amount of tax levy was under $1 million for our budget.
They do an outstanding job for bringing such a large amount of service to our community, and I just think it's really important to highlight the outstanding work that is done and what it means to the families and the people in our community. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions for Tricia? Mr. Brewer.
I have a question. Placement, are you talking about what some of us call institutional costs?
Yeah, so our placements are both adult institutional placement, group home placements for adults, and then our children's placements in foster care, group homes,
And
street
we're-
foster care.
Plus 196,000?
We came in under budget, so that was levy that was used, but we used less of the levy than
Excellent, wonderful.
That's right.
That has been an issue for many, many years.
And things that we've implemented since I've been there, we try to have at least quarterly placement meetings that I'm a part of, so I can hear what the status of the placements are, what the plan is, how do we.
For the benefit of new members, what does it cost per day to put someone in Winnebago
Just over $1,400 a day
per person,
per person,
for one person?
yes, for
So
one
a couple
day.
months of that adds up.
Yeah. Right, so we try very hard once they get there and they're stable enough to return to the community, get them out and then connected with services in the community.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, this is the first time that's been under budget since I've been on the board.
I think so.
Pretty close,
Yeah.
So, nice job.
And by its nature, it's unpredictable. Is that fair to say, Tricia?
That's very fair to say, yeah, very fair to say.
It can depend on court orders and things like that. So we've had years where it's been significantly over budget, and this year we did well, but we appreciate your efforts.
We didn't budget.
That
We
was part of the
didn't
problem
budget
too,
it.
yes.
We budgeted low and hoped the best.
Yeah.
Never quite got there.
It wasn't the only area we applied that strategy. We had the same success everywhere we tried it.
Right.
Any other final questions? No, thank you, Tricia. All right, we'll move on to item 11, a resolution approving the 2025 capital improvement plan. Clerk, read the resolution, please.
Now therefore be resolved by the, this would be resolution 24-38. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the 2025 capital improvement plan is approved as presented. And be it further resolved that Administrator Pesh and Financial Director Erbs are directed to initiate the required procedures to utilize short-term borrowing. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This resolution was offered by the Executive and Finance Standing Committee on 11 June of 2024.
Okay, do we have a motion on this resolution? Motion from Mr. McKee, second from Mr. Gill. Discussion, Candace.
So if you look at what you have in front of you, you will see on the right-hand side columns that say remaining CIP from prior years. So because our financial system is so archaic and outdated, there's no way to really track. So it's done via spreadsheet and all sorts of other things. And so this year I said, before we get into this CIP stuff, can we audit what has been done in past years, which meant pulling about 60 reports to try to figure out what was still where. And when we did that, I was shocked because we've spent year over year borrowing money for projects to get done. So we're spending money to borrow money to do projects. And then the projects weren't getting done and the money has been sitting. So once we determined what was left, we decided collectively, Larry, myself, Derek, we were going to use up the money we have. There is no sense to continue borrowing. We're trying to build up Fund 45, which is our capital improvement fund, so that short-term borrowing is no more. We should be able to self-sustain. We should be able to put money away and plan for these projects and pay for them as we go. That's the ultimate goal. We're a few years out from that yet. But as you can see, the total amount of money up through 2023 for 2024 was $417,000, and total all in was $847,466. So there was a significant amount of money sitting there, some of which had never ever been touched. And so we met with each department, we reviewed their asks, and those that had money left over, we found ways to utilize the funds that they currently had. The only one where we had to supplant or add some money to was the sheriff's office, and we were able to do that out of Fund 45 because we put money in Fund 45 last year, and it was $28,000 that we had to, supply. And that meant no additional dollars that we needed to borrow. So the goal was to reduce a little bit each year. The good news is this year, we're only borrowing $601,200. Last year, we borrowed $1,050,000. So it's a significant achievement. And that is also due to the department heads being responsible with projects, knowing that until we have our space needs study done, we're not going to invest large chunks of money into certain projects, being responsible. So this was a job well done by all. And in addition, one of the things we're going to be proposing at the next executive committee is a new way to do short-term borrowing, because we have explored and we don't necessarily have to bond. And if we don't bond, if we use banks, which we are allowed to do, if we use a request for proposal type process, we can get a much lower rate, meaning it won't cost us $20,000 to $30,000 to borrow the money for 6 months. So we're working on that process right now. We will be bringing that to the executive committee as well. So, we're really looking at the way we're doing business, how to be more effective, how to be more efficient, and how to make sure we're utilizing the dollars we have. So we're really, really proud of this CIP this year. We're still going to get a lot of great work done, and we're doing it responsibly. So, questions?
Can you highlight the things we're looking at for spending in 2025 for the?
Yes. So we are looking at county administration isn't spending anything. MIS has some money set aside for Office 365, computer infrastructure. We have some money set aside for highway, for the trucks. The sheriff's office, we're not borrowing for. Pine Valley has money set aside, but they fund their own. We are going to do some maintenance at the Richland Center, but that's money that's already in the budget. We are going to do some work in the jail. That's also going to be prior year's money. And we are going to do some much needed upgrades to the courtroom area, the waiting room area, the law library, just really the jury room, things like that, but again, all with monies that were already allocated. So realistically, the only borrowing that we are doing is for MIS and highway this year.
And this before you, anybody got questions on the plan? No, so we have a motion and a second to pass this resolution and accept the plan. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Resolution is adopted. Thank you. Item 12, a resolution approving purchase of finance, payroll, and human resources software from Tyler Technologies.
This would be resolution number 24-39. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby given for the purchase of finance, payroll, and human resources software from Tyler Technologies with an implementation cost of $163,505 and an annual cost not to exceed $120,000 for initial term, which is first 3 years of contract. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This resolution was offered by the Executive and Finance Standing Committee on 11 June of 2024.
All right, you've heard the resolution. We have a motion. Motion by Mr. Manning, second by Supervisor Fleming. And Candace.
Okay, so as you all know, it's been a goal for many years to get updated financial software, and we were lucky enough to find a product that is HR, payroll, finance, and document management all in one. We vetted it very thoroughly, called several counties that utilize this program. We also did multiple demos with multiple departments present so that they could ask questions, make sure that we had all the functionality that everyone could think of. Lots of emails, pages and pages and pages of questions, and probably about 8 hours of demos. And everyone agreed that this is the product. So we have ARPA monies. Trish had some ARPA monies left over that she has donated into the cause. And in addition, all of the software that we will no longer need to purchase and utilize will actually only cost us about $9,000 more a year to have this product in place, because we have so many other products to do all of this work. And the beauty of it is, now we enter the data once and it carries across the entire system, and we won't have to have all the spreadsheets and the checking something 5 and 6 times, and it's going to be really exciting. So we're really pleased with this product, very happy about it. It will be about an 8 to 10 month implementation, so we anticipate it going live by first quarter of 2025, end of first quarter 2025. And it will just be a huge goal on our strategic plan checked off. So total cost for 3 years, we were able to negotiate with them if we paid it in full, will be $521,654. We will pay that lump sum up front, and we will not have a payment due then until year 4. And that gave us a 27% overall total discount.
Another advantage of this system is it provides enhanced public access to a lot of things.
Oh, yes, the budgeting software is amazing, and the public-facing piece, you can actually, we can provide a link on our website, and so the public will be able to go on, and let's say they want to know how much the sheriff's office spent on boots. They can actually search, do a search, if we want to allow it, we can filter it out. and see exactly how much money was spent on a specific item. So the transparency piece of local government is going to be drastically enhanced. And I think it'll be a wonderful thing, because right now, you know, there's one piece of paper and that's the budget and that's what they can see. This way, it's a much more interactive process. There can be graphs, there can be pie charts, all sorts of different features that we can set up. And I just think, you know, we've all talked a lot about transparency and increasing that, and this will allow us to be able to do that with the public, and I think that's a wonderful thing.
Do you expect like soft savings from redundant, have you calculated redundant savings from, multiple entries, multiple platforms, and what specifically, what software or package programs will we be able to retire?
So right now, we have ESS, which is our employee self-service portal. We have Avenue, which we use for payroll, and we use for our HR. And then we also use that for our finance. So there's different pockets of Avenue that we utilize. I know there are more, because it was about $130,000 worth of, there was 5 different programs, I believe, when I had the listing. As far as duplication of services, I wish I could tell you, because it's significant. I mean, I think about Trish's payroll alone over at HHS. So the spreadsheet for her staff alone is probably this big, and it's multiple pages. And it has column after column after column that is manually entered, then checked, 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 checked. Then it comes over here, and Tammy Hendrickson rechecks, 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 enters it manually into the software, runs it, and rechecks, rechecks, rechecks. The hours, and that's just for that. The sheriff's office is the same thing. Amber sends up this, it's a huge packet by the time it's done. We'll be able to do a flat file import from Highway. We'll be able to do a flat file interface from Pine Valley, so we won't have to do any manual work anymore. Right now, we're doing all that, again, manually. So hours, the staff dollars that will be saved on the backs of these programs probably could yield a full-time, maybe 2 position, to be honest.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
I would expect so.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's great.
Other questions for Candace? Feedback from the department heads of the demos was very good.
Yeah, I believe so. Trish?
Yeah, we were very pleased with it, very excited. Very.
Josh was there. Josh, were you excited? It doesn't affect Josh.
Not really. From what I got to see of it, it seemed like a pretty good solid program.
Clay, I think it'll work well in your world. Yeah. So.
There are no other questions or comments, then we'll vote on this. All those in favor of approving the resolution to purchase this software, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. We're up to item 13, a resolution approving an amendment to 3 2024 provider contracts for the Health and Human Services Department.
This would be resolution number 24-40. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the following amendments to the following contract. With URNF Counseling of Avoca, with the original contract being for $49,500, an amendment to $85,000 due to an increased need for a variety of services to the comprehensive community services consumers in the Behavioral Health Services Unit. And with Arneson Counseling LLC of Richland Center, with the original contract being for $49,500, amended to $100,000 due to an increased need for a variety of services to comprehensive community service consumers in the Behavioral Health Services Unit. And with Red Maple Consulting Services LLC of Gays Mills, with the original contract being for $49,500, amended to $150,000 due to an increased need for a variety of services to the comprehensive community service consumers in the Behavioral Health Services Unit. And be it further resolved that the Health and Human Services Board is hereby authorized to amend any of the above contracts by not more than 15%. And be it further resolved that the Director of Health and Human Services, Ms. Tricia Clements, is hereby authorized to sign the above contracts on behalf of Richland County in accordance with this resolution. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This resolution was offered by the County Board members of the Community and Health Services Standing Committee on 6 June of 2024.
For a motion on this resolution.
Oh,
Mr. McKee moves, Julie Fleming seconds. And discussion, Tricia.
So these are 3 contracts that we have for our comprehensive community services program. All 3 of these providers started in 2023, so when we set our contracts for 2024, we really didn't have any idea of the amounts, so we just went with the 49.5. What we have found is our CCS program is booming. At the start of 2024, we had 42 people enrolled. We now have 59, and we have a pretty significant to-be served list. So we're working hard to get services into the community and to the people in the community. So these are 3 contracts that provide services for that program.
Ms. Glassbrenner.
And just to clarify for new members, when it's CCS program, that's then funded, it doesn't come from tax funding.
Correct. These are Medicaid billable services. So we do bill Medicaid for these services. When you talk about the complex back-end programs, if it isn't fully funded through Medicaid billing, on the back end we get it through our WIMCR process where we report to the state, these are the added expenses we had that WIMCR didn't fund, and then we get that funding back the following year.
Thank you. Other questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Do we want to say that board, HHS board is hereby authorized? Like wording?
We've been struggling to catch all those.
Okay, so
We are now the
that's,
Community and Health Services.
yeah, there should be a change in the phrase there that wasn't caught, so we'll treat that as a typo. Thank you for pointing that out. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Resolution is adopted. Thank you. We will move on then to item 15, a resolution relating to already obtained Snowmobile Alliance grants accessible to counties for stream banks. Oh, sorry, I missed one. 14, sorry. Utilization of opioid settlement funds to offer grants to the community to allow for the prevention, treatment, and/or recovery of opioid drug use.
This would be resolution number 24-41. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the Richland County Department of Health and Human Services is hereby authorized to utilize opioid settlement funds to offer grants to the community to allow for the prevention, treatment, and/or recovery of opioid drug use through the end of 2038. And be it further resolved, grant applications will be accepted twice a year to be reviewed by the Community and Health Services Committee with final approval by the full county board. And be it further resolved, grant awards shall not exceed opioid settlement funds received by Richland County. And be it further resolved that this resolution should be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This resolution was offered by the county board members of the Community and Health Services Standing Committee on 6 June of 2024.
The resolution, do we have a motion for approval? Motion by Kramer, second by Glassbrenner. And discussion.
So the opioid settlement funds are funds that we received due to the significant number of opioid overdoses, response to the addiction issue. The county is expected to get just over $489,000. We currently have about $141,000. We have a committee that got together of county employees, law enforcement, community stakeholders, and AODA professionals. And in the end, we really talked about what we could do with these funds, but given the amount over several years, it's not enough to hire a position and have a county person complete these tasks. So we did talk about offering grants to the community through these amounts that would be approved by this board to provide these services, treatment, recovery, and support for the opioid epidemic.
Mr. McGuire, do you have a question?
Yeah, what's the source of these funds? The federal government, the state of Wisconsin? Where's it generated from?
Pharmaceutical companies.
What?
Pharmaceutical companies?
Oh, really? Well, they should be.
I believe it's a legal settlement.
Mr. Chairman, it's a legal settlement, there was litigation and.
The state got together and did it, and so we get notices quite often. They just had another new settlement here recently, and then we get notice, and then we accept them, and then the monies come in, and they go into a designated fund here within the county.
Strictly case by case?
It's company by company, so you
Company by
have
company,
Walgreens,
okay.
CVS, yeah, they're ongoing, there are still some that are out there.
Okay.
It's a national thing, and it comes down to the state, and then the state brings it down to the county.
Correct.
The counties association, was instrumental in handling for us and the other counties in Wisconsin.
And all counties must sign on for the distribution to hold. So each time a new settlement comes, all counties have documents that they need to sign, or they need to sign off on or agree to, or otherwise the distribution as it sits now is null and void.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's adopted. Now we'll get down to relating to already obtained Snowmobile Alliance grants accessible to counties for stream bank repair, item 15.
This would be resolution number 24-42. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted to complete the projects as defined and submit for reimbursement once all work is completed. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This resolution was offered by the Public Works Standing Committee on 6 June of 2024.
Resolution, do we have a motion for approval? Motion by Brookins, do we have a second? Second by Mr. Gill. And discussion, Josh.
So as you guys are aware, this is a grant that's a couple years old, and it kind of takes place from COVID, why it took so long to get done. Basically, the county acts as a middle person between the state of Wisconsin, DNR, and the sciences. So when there's work to be done to maintain the stream banks and bridges and so on and so forth, they can apply for grants. So they have done so. In the previous years, we were able to get through the bidding process. RFPs on one list came in as the lowest bidder. It's important to note that these are not tax levy dollars. These are 100% funds from the DNR.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? No questions, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. And item 16 is a resolution to pay the bills to the Richland County Snowmobile Alliance and the Hillsborough Trailblazers from the 23-24 Snowmobile Maintenance Grant.
This would be resolution number 24-43. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted to pay the bills from the Richland County Snowmobile Alliance and Hillsborough Trailblazers for grooming and non-grooming hours during the 2023 to 2024 Snowmobile Maintenance Grant. And be it further resolved that this resolution should be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. Resolution offered by the Public Works Standing Committee on 6 June of 2024.
Motion by Mr. Cosgrove, do we have a second? Second by Mr. Cooey. And discussion.
So again, this is an annual thing that's done every year, acting as a middle person between the DNR and the Snowmobile Alliances. They do all this work and then they submit for reimbursement, and this is again 100% DNR funds, nothing out of the tax.
Any questions on this? Something we do every year. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The resolution is adopted. Item 17, a resolution approving an interdepartmental partnership of MIS and the Sheriff's Department applying for and accepting a PSAP grant from the Wisconsin Department of Military Affairs for 2025.
This would be resolution number 24-44. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for MIS to apply for and accept a PSAP grant from Wisconsin Department of Military Affairs to provide additional funding for the equipment upgrades and advanced training necessary for next generation 911 NG 911 implementation. And be it further resolved that the grant would fund up to $750,000 and requires a minimum local match of 10%. And be it further resolved that this resolution should be effective upon its passage and publication. This resolution was offered by the Public Safety Standing Committee on 7 June of 2024.
Thank you for the resolution. Do we have a motion on this? Motion by Mr. Cooey, second by Supervisor Harwick, sorry, tongue tangled up there. Discussion.
So these grants we've applied for the last several years. We will be applying again. We're formulating our grant application right now, so I can't tell you the exact amount we'll be applying for. And the 10% match, we would be expending those funds out of budgeted funds at any rate. It's not an additional expense. This just helps to supplement our budget for those items that we'll be applying for.
Is this a grant we've had successful applications for in the past?
1 year, yes, the second year, no. So hopefully third year's a charm as well.
That was my question, what have we received in the past?
$256,000 the first year. We did not receive last year, but after such a large award, I wasn't really surprised. So I think our chances this year are rather.
Supervisor Glassman.
Maybe you already said, but what does PSAP stand for?
It's the PSAP, it's the dispatch center.
Public Safety Answering Point.
Makes sense.
Yes, Mr. Franklin.
So thank you. So the money for this is derived from your cell phones and all communication phones. If you look at your phone, your bill, it says Police and Fire Protection. That would be changed into 911 fund. That 75 cents goes into a pot, and then that money is dispersed to Department of Military Affairs, Office of Emergency Communications. And again, I'm thankful that our representative Tony Kurtz is here because he was helpful in changing that language from Police and Fire Protection Fund to a 911. So we have now that pot can grow and we can work it on a more continuous basis. So thank you.
Mr. Carroll.
Do we have a specific figure we think we need, or are we just blank ask for a grant?
We are formulating that still with working through. I don't have the exact information yet. We've met once and then over the phone a second time to finish with the formulation.
Yeah, we have some projects in mind. We kind of just need to sit down and prioritize them. But yeah, I think our application last year was a little lofty, and then we got some feedback on that, and we're going to adjust for this year. Yep.
Other questions? If there are none, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Resolution is adopted. Thank you. A resolution approving the Sheriff's Office purchase of new mobile and portable radios.
There's second grant.
Oh, second grant, sorry. That's what I did for thinking it was. Okay. So resolution applying for an interdepartmental partnership of MIS Land Information and the Sheriff's Department, applying for and accepting an NG 911 GIS grant from the Wisconsin Department of Military Affairs.
This would be resolution number 24-45. Be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for MIS to apply for and accept an NG 911 GIS grant from Wisconsin Department of Military Affairs. Yes, sorry, lost my place. To provide additional funding for the equipment upgrades and advanced training. Am I reading the correct? Sorry.
Yeah, they're just identical. For next generation 911,
Yes.
NG 911.
Okay, and be it further resolved that the grant would fund up to $750,000 and requires a minimum local match of 10%. And be it further resolved that this resolution be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This resolution is offered by the Public Safety Standing Committee on 7 June 2024.
Motion by Cosgrove, we have a second. Second by Frank. And discussion on this one. Mr. Frank.
Thank you. So the discussion on this one is, I'm trying to look it up. The match is 5% on this one. It's not 10%. So that would need to change. And I don't think 750,000 on this one is the maximum available. I tried finding that in the
I've got it up right here.
grant language. I think the PSAP one is, I don't think GIS is. But I know it's 5% match. I'm not even sure that we'd set that number on the GIS one yet. I guess if we could, do we know what we're asking for in dollars for that?
Let me flip to that folder. I do not have all the information back from Land Information yet, because we are waiting to decide on the position.
The GIS position. Yes.
So, if we decide on moving forward with that, it would make a significant difference.
Okay, it says funding up to, so I don't, again, I think that's something we want to be noted. One, it is a 5% match for sure, but the second question is we're just not sure what the state max is on that.
Let's see, but I really thought I copied that right out of the grant.
Is zoning needs to apply for this every year?
Darren Gudgeon actually did the application prior to his departure, and now, well, we have to get over.
Yeah, so these are 18-month rotating grants. We work with the state on that. So every 18 months, every year they come out, but they're good for 18 months. So we always have an overlap so the 911 system and the GIS system can continue to build and continue improving across the state. That's been the goal of this. I guess the only request and change I make is the 5%. I guess the other one.
Yeah, because it just says that there's $6 million available.
Right, we haven't set the limit on that. We're still setting those parameters.
My motion to amend the 10% to 5 would be in order.
Yes.
Make that motion, Mr. Frank, second by Ms. Fleming. And we need to vote on the amendment to change the match of 10% to 5% to be in line with what the requirements are. So all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, any further discussion on the resolution as amended? All those in favor of applying for the grant, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Move forward, thank you. All right, now let's talk about approving the Sheriff's Office purchasing new mobile and portable radios for the new radio system.
This would be Resolution 24-46. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the Sheriff's Office to spend no more than $78,000 for the purchase of new radio equipment capable of operating on the new system. Be it further resolved, these purchases would be paid from the 2024 Short-Term Borrowing Fund, which is Fund 92. And be it further resolved that this resolution should be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This resolution was offered by the Public Safety Standing Committee on 7 June of 2024. Also was approved at the Executive and Finance Standing Committee on June 11, 2024.
You've heard the resolution, motion by Cosgrove, we have a second by Manning, and discussion. Clayton?
Yeah, so this has been a project I've been working on for, it's probably been a couple of months, I think, since I first brought it to Candace. Doing an inventory of our radio equipment and making sure that we're prepared to operate on the new system when it is put in place. This amount will get us the portable and mobile radios, handheld and squad radios we need to be able to just transition and operate on the new system when it comes. So the money, the CIP money, I already have it. We already have it. It's just, it was slated for squad cars, and I would like to repurpose it for radios. I got the squad cars that I need for this year, they're purchased, and this money is other money that was on my CIP plan. So, my hope is in that doing this, we did have subscriber money in the project, subscriber equipment money in the project. My hope is that that chunk will still be available for our area fire and EMS districts, so that I've already taken care of my people, and we can make sure that the rest of our public safety partners can operate on the system when the time comes. So.
I believe you mentioned you're getting a discount because
Yes, yep. And so, yeah, so the vendor, using GenCom, which is our vendor for the project, we are getting special pricing because of the project. So that pricing is factored into this.
Mr. Manning.
So, repurposing money from your squad budget, is this going to bite us down the road?
No.
Not screw up your rotation?
Nope, we're good.
Okay.
Yep.
Other questions? Not hearing any, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Resolution is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Up next, we have an ordinance relating to a parcel belonging to Frank and Kathy Wanick in the town of Richwood.
This would be ordinance number 24-9, amendment number 599 to Richland County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance number 5, relating to a parcel belonging to Frank and Kathy Wanick in the town, Wanick in the town of Richwood. The following described 14.46 acre parcel belonging to Frank and Kathy Wanick in the town of Richwood is hereby rezoned from legal non-conforming NC to agricultural residential AR district. This ordinance shall be effective on June 18, 2024. This ordinance was offered by the Land and Zoning Standing Committee on 3 June of 2024.
You've heard the ordinance. Do we have a motion for adoption? Motion by Mr. Gill, second by Mr. McKee. And discussion.
I can add a little bit of background. This is another case where there was a parcel that was non-conforming legal, but they wanted to sell to a family member, so they're just getting the correct zoning for it now.
Any questions or comments? As all those in favor of the ordinance, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ordinance is adopted. Thank you. Report on petitions for zoning amendments received since the last county board session.
There were 2 more zoning requests received, and there were none that were denied.
Okay, that takes care of the next item. Thank you. And that brings us to item number 23 on our agenda, a closed session and you can read the legal reference there in the agenda, but basically this is an update on the Pine Valley investigation for that statutory authority. Do we have a motion to move into closed session for that?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Brewer, second by Mr. Manning. All those in favor of moving into closed session, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed to moving into closed session? Please let it show it was a unanimous vote to move into closed session. At this time, we will close the session and ask our guests to please depart.
And there's an agenda item here, number 25, possible action on items from closed session. So such a motion would be in order at this time.
Could also fall under future agenda items.
Do we need to have Maya step back?
Yes, Ms. Barb is still.
Shoot.
Start the recording, and then we need to activate our microphone and camera. There we go. Okay, we are back in open session. And there is an agenda item after return to open session that says possible action on items from closed session. My impression was we didn't have any firm items from closed session to act on at this point. We do have an agenda item later for future agenda items, item 27, so if anyone wants to suggest future agenda items at that point, we certainly can. Sandwiched in between those, we have correspondence. Do we have any correspondence tonight?
I have not received any, sir.
From Candace, okay. So we have no correspondence. Are there future agenda items that board members would like to see at our next meeting? All right, hearing none at this time, I'm looking for Mr. Manning to make a motion to adjourn, second by Fleming. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Get on that floor again.
Whoever comes.